Did you really mean it? Did you really mean it when you said that you regretted doing that thing? Doing something that you willingly did consciously and wishing that it actually didn't happen. Do you really mean that? Because if that moment, that situation, that regret didn't happen, then where would you be today? I had one of the weirdest moments for me personally because this just seems so foreign to me. I was working at my job and I went to go to the toilet actually, not during my 15, but I went to go to the toilet and as I was walking back, I was walking down these stairs past a cafe. It's in a shopping centre, so but basically there's a cafe opposite where I work. I was walking down the stairs past the cafe and this guy, I see him jogging over to me saying, "Hey, hey, hey." And I'm like, "What's wrong? Like, what's happened? What's happened behind me?" And he goes, "What'd you do to your hand?" And I said, "Oh, because I think this was maybe my first or second shift back since I did my hand." And he goes, "What happened to your hand?" And I said, "Oh, like long story short, I had surgery, but I ruptured the tendon of my finger." And he goes, "Oh my God, that's horrible. Like, are you in pain? Like, how are you feeling?" And I was thinking, why does this guy care so much about me? Like, why is he so like up and about and really caring to me? And so we keep going on. We keep talking about it. He's asking me if I'm in pain, when I got it, what happened, how it happened, how I'm feeling now, what am I doing with myself now? And then he says to me, "Can I pray for you?" And I looked at him and I said, "Why?" And he said, well, he went on this big spiel, but to refine it, he said, "I'm a practicing Christian and I had an encounter with God. And I am just going around to people that I see in public, especially people in need, that seem in need, and I'm asking to pray for them." And in my head, I'm like, this is really weird. Like, why does he care so much about me? And also, what's a practicing Christian? Because I don't know what that is. Is that someone that's trying to become a priest? Is that someone that's trying to develop their belief in God or Jesus? Because he said he had an encounter with Jesus. And I'm an atheist, so I don't have a belief in a higher power. Mostly because my grandparents, they grew up Catholic, so they believed in God. And I would go to the Easter and sometimes the Christmas Eve. What do you call them? I would just go to church on those days. I forgot what they're called, but there's a specific name for when they have like big speeches and celebrations in the church for those days. Going to mass, no shit. I would go to mass with my grandma on Easter and some Christmas Eves, and I would go to be there for them, but I don't really believe in a God, and that's just because I've never had an experience or any sort of real, I guess, evidence brought to me that would make me believe in God. I'm completely open to it. I'm open to believing in God and reading the Bible and studying it, but I don't have an interest in it. I don't think that there's some guy up there that's controlling my life and having all these things happen to me just because, I don't know. I don't know anything about the Bible or anything about Jesus. I just know that he died on the cross and he loves you. Jesus loves you, because that was said a couple times in a lot of masses, and I just followed along with it. But back to the story. He's a practicing Christian, and he said, "Can I pray for you, Charlie?" And I said, "Sure." But in that moment, I reckon it was a 5 or 10 second pause. I thought to myself, this is the weirdest thing ever, but I'm interested. I want to know where this is going to go. And so he prays for me. He prays for my hand. He prays for my finger to bend properly. He prays for me to have no pain, and prays for me to have all these things happen to me. And so he asked me to bend my hand. Nothing changed. Did it one more time, and then he prayed for me a couple more times to believe in God, or for God to show a sign of being there for me to believe in God. And he asked me if I was religious, and I said, no, I'm not. But I really think what you're doing is amazing, and it's really good for you, and I'm very happy that you guys are doing this for yourselves, because it takes a lot of balls for someone to just go up to someone in public, let alone talk to them, and then pray for them, because that takes a lot, because it's an awkward situation. And we said thank you, we exchanged names, not numbers, but I went on with my day, and as I'm walking back into work, I follow out my shift, I go through it the next 4 hours, and then because he prayed for me to have a sign of God, I kept complaining all day that my shift is so boring, and then a couple hours later, I had this bloke come up to me who speaks to me for 45 minutes straight. And after that whole conversation, and after getting in trouble from my boss, I thought, surely not. Surely this isn't God trying to speak to me or send me a message. But then I thought, what if I didn't let that guy pray for me? Would this have happened? And what if I said no and I didn't speak to him and didn't understand that he was a great bloke? He was around my age and he was just trying to send his message across to people around. And I thought to myself, I was like, I would fucking regret not letting that guy pray for me, because I would have given him happiness of talking to someone, because he was doing that all day. He was doing that all day for people. And I would have just stripped him of one person that would have had a conversation with him. Because I hate to assume, but I reckon no one would want to fucking talk to someone that was going up asking to pray for them. Because people are awkward nowadays. They hate having conversations. They hate, talking to random people, especially in public. Most of the time when you're at a shopping centre, it's a lot of people just rushing around trying to get stuff. And I would have robbed him of that great conversation that we had and him being able to practice his faith. And so this whole experience kind of, I guess, made me have the bigger idea and epiphany about doing this episode on regret. And researching about this episode was actually pretty hard, because regret isn't really talked about enough, I don't think. And I say that a lot. I say, I don't think, because I don't. And regret isn't talked about enough, because I see a lot of motivational videos, and when I searched up on YouTube, there was almost nothing about regret, except for a couple Joe Rogan clips. There was one with him and Theo Von. And it was hard to research for it. And that's why I think it's good that I had that experience, because look what's happened now. I had that moment with that guy, and I'm so annoyed I can't remember his name, because it would be amazing if I could. I remember the guy that spoke to me for 45 minutes, Vito. But I don't remember the guy's name that prayed for me, which was weird, because I thought that would have been a canon event that I would remember. But he prayed for me, and if that never happened, I potentially would have never talked to that guy for 45 minutes. Who knows? God is real. I don't know. Someone can prove it to me. What if I never thought of the idea of regret? Then I probably wouldn't have posted an episode this week. And there's so many things that have come from that experience into my life. I was just thinking oh my God, so much stuff has happened because of this random interaction with this guy who believes in God. And I would never have thought to write this episode, along with a couple others. And I would never have thought of trying to understand this way of thinking. And so, do you really mean it? That's back to the question, do you really mean to regret that thing? And I absolutely do not regret it. But some things you do regret, and some things you wish didn't happen in your life. But how would your life have changed if these things didn't happen? What if you didn't get heartbroken? Then would you have chosen to develop yourself? What if you didn't get blackout drunk that one night? Then you wouldn't actually know what your limit is. Bit of a degenerate example, but it's needed. What if you didn't go camping with your mates? Would you actually realize or not if you do like to go camping? This can be very little or it can be really significant, but it's little things like this that add up and make you wonder too much about life. And yes, it's completely fine to think a lot and have these deep thoughts about, what you want to do and what you like and what you don't like and who you want to surround yourself with and all this stuff. But you're never going to find that shit out if you never actually try and you never put yourself into that situation. I had no idea I was going to love podcasting so much until I listened to a bunch of podcasts and I decided, fuck it, I'm going to go public and do a podcast and just see how it goes. A lot of people, when they think of regret, they associate it with this feeling of shame or associating it with their past actions. But I think that the lack of action is what people regret more than their past actions. I guess a really common thing that people regret is, I should have gone and talked to that girl. I should have booked that trip. I should have gone to that place. I should have gone out with my mates. We should have had a couple drinks at mine. I should have ran a little bit longer. I could have gone a little bit harder. Should have gone to sleep earlier. I know that these thoughts and complaints are very common because I say the same shit to myself. Especially about talking to women. It's bad. But that topic can wait for another day. But we know that by taking a chance on anything, there can be success or failures. When you go and talk to the girl, you can get a number or she can tell you to fuck off. When you go on the trip, you could have the best time of your life, make new mates, meet new people overseas, and make memories that last for a lifetime. Or you could get Bali belly and realize that you don't like the people that you went on that trip with, which I think is probably a good thing. Or you could have gone out with your mates, had maybe one of the best nights and side quested all night. Or you could have just, gone blackout drunk and left early. Or just had a shit night and nothing was going on. I think the chance of failing or the chance of just not succeeding or not surpassing this big standard that you have for whatever topic, whatever situation it might be, stops us from taking action. But because we make the actual failure that might happen seem so much more significant than it actually will be. When that girl says, piss off, or I don't want to talk to you at the bar, it's embarrassment for about 5 seconds. When you go on a trip with your mates and you realize that you're not mates with them and you don't like them that much, that's all it is. You just don't hang out with those people anymore and it's not that big of a deal. When you go out and you get blackout drunk, that failure of a night isn't actually as bad as you think. Most of the time, that night of you getting blackout drunk and vomiting everywhere is probably the funniest memory that you and your mates remember and you will talk about for ages. And I think it's really sad that most of the time we just pond on the potential of something happening. And I've talked about this so much, like way too much, way more than I actually need to in the past few episodes. The potential of something bad happening and the potential of failing and people being scared of it. I'm still a culprit. I'm saying this, however, I still fall victim to this kind of idea. and it's hard to escape. I reckon even some of the most famous and well-known people to preach this kind of idea of not being scared about failing have once in their life been scared about failing. And that's why they're able to talk about it, because they understand the mindset that you're going through and they've actually been there and experienced overcoming that idea. And so with regret eats you up when your bounce back from that regret is so long and it's prolonged. When you can shorten the time that you have between your grieving and your regret of doing something or something happening to you or anything of that sort, the shorter you can make that time of when you regret and you get back to your normal stage, the less damaging it is for you. And so for me, what I actually do, I ask myself two questions. What happened and can I change it? So when you're going over what happened, when you're retelling yourself the story, don't just amp up the story to yourself because you're talking to yourself and you want to make yourself, I guess, feel the pain or feel worse about it and make sure that you understand how bad it was. Be realistic and truthful, because, and it's a weird thing to say, like, don't amp it up to yourself, but I experienced doing this to myself. Whenever I regretted doing something, I would make it seem so much worse than it actually is. Say I talk to a girl and I get rejected. All my mates remember it as, oh fuck, he went over to the chick in the blue dress and she just said, nah, I've got a boyfriend. Whereas I remember it as, oh my god, all my mates just watched me do that. Everyone in the bar's looking at me. Holy fuck, she's got a boyfriend. I'm going to get bashed. You amp up and you add all these little things to the story when they're really not so significant. And you make yourself feel worse about it. Never include what you think others are thinking about you in the story. Tell it just how it happened. So I went up and talked to the girl in the blue dress at the bar, and I said hi, got her name, but she said she has a boyfriend, and then I walked off, and that's all that happened. And now it doesn't sound so significant compared to how I was telling it before, when I was including everyone else's thoughts and ideas, because when you start to worry about what everyone else is thinking, it just fucks you up. It ruins your thinking pattern, and you start to become a people pleaser and wonder what everyone else is thinking about you rather than what you think of yourself. And can I change it? That's the second question, and that's the biggest question that really stops me from thinking about something, or it stops me from not taking action about something. If you can change it, then yes, take action. Do something about it. If I can't change it, then what? I can't do anything about it. So I leave it and I forget about it. You can't just let it eat you up, because all you're going to do is end up fighting a never-ending battle with yourself. Regret is a part of our life, whether you want to accept it or not. Happiness is a part of our life. Sadness is a part of our life. Anger, excitement, tiredness, horniness, everything and all these emotions are all a part of our lives. And it's a matter of time before you experience it or not. Some more than others, but regret is always going to be there. And I also think that if you avoid experiencing this feeling, all you're doing is just stripping yourself of knowing, one, and also two, feeling what that emotion is like. And this goes for all other emotions that we feel. But if you stop yourself from especially feeling the recovery and the period after you regret something and you don't think about it anymore, if you restrict yourself of that, it just keeps you in this mental battle with yourself. And so those are the two big things that I think really help you stop regretting, and also pushing past it, because the longer you dwell on a failure, the longer it's going to take for you to succeed. Because when you succeed, you can't succeed without a failure, or without failures. But yeah, that brings us to the end of this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed. Again, let me know what new episode ideas you want me to do, or new people that you want me to have on. Let me know, and I'll see you guys next week.